So happy International Women's, I guess I have to say month because the day has gone, right? But we celebrate for the whole month. It really is a joy to be here this morning with you and to celebrate with you. And I thank UTT for inviting me to be on this panel or this event. It's a day, International Women's Day is a day, is a month, it should be the whole year when we celebrate worldwide women's achievements. And that's women achievements, not just from business, but in every sphere of life. We're talking about political, social, business, etc. One of the big things about International Women's Day is really calling for gender parity or gender equality. And I know that we see that so sadly lacking, and I'll talk about that some more, right? We also celebrate achievements of women who have overcome the barriers that we women face in getting this gender equality. I'm happy that so many of you are here this morning. It says that you also believe in the theme of balance for better. And I remember earlier in the year when I was discussing with someone, what does balance for better mean? And I'm sure that you all understand that we believe that if we bring women into every sphere of life in probably equal proportion that we have men, we will be using the God-given talents that God gave to both women and men together to do it the best way that we can. And I will go back to even talk about, from even in the Bible, God recognized it was not good for man to be alone, and from the side, his rib, he took a rib out, and he formed woman to be a partner with the man. Not to walk behind the man, but to be at the side of the man. So that's important for us to recognize, right? Is there anyone in this audience who does not believe that if we had better balance in the world, that the world would be a better place? All right, great. So we know we all believe, including the men, right? Because none of the men put up their hands. Okay, so the theme for this event this morning, Women Who Inspire, really and truly, it is important that we share our stories and share it with others who are on their way up climbing, because it is from learning from others, both their mistakes and how they were able to steer through the challenges that you and we all are able to move forward. We know that it is really like probably climbing Mount Everest, or maybe even more than that, right? In some cases, for us to really be able to get to the top of where we would like to be. It's hard for me now, coming after these two powerful speakers, to continue to talk about inspiring, but I will share my story in some way, and I really hope that that you will be able to draw some takeaways from all the three stories that you have heard this morning and what may have impacted you, and hopefully something will ring home to you about what's happening in your life, and you'll be able to take away some lesson. The World Economic Forum report, and it's important that I say that, and I quote from that, says, gender parity is fundamental to whether and how economies and societies thrive. Ensuring the full development and appropriate deployment of half of the world's total talent pool has a vast bearing on the growth, competitiveness, and future readiness of economies and businesses worldwide. Again, according to the report, it is going to take another, anybody wants to guess how many years? How much? Just throw out a number. How much? 20? 30? Another number. Come, go higher. 202 years for us to achieve gender parity. That's in 2018. The 2017 report had it at 200 years, so we did not progress. We regressed. all right? In particular for 2018, the study was around digital world and the technology world. And they found that a lot of women are in that part of the world, but more as administrators and execution as opposed to being the actual developers, all right? Go into Google and these places and you would see in the development room, it's more men still, all right? So we know that we have a lot to do. I certainly won't be around. As a matter of fact, nobody in this room, unless things change, will be around in 202 years. So let's see how we can make that or make them a liar and advance that 202 years so that we could move forward a little bit. It's really hard to believe, but when you look around, you know it is true, you know. And then in this world as we live in right now, I mean, the number of world scandals we see on women's abuse, and I know it's coming out a lot more now because people feel safe to talk about it. Human trafficking, all of these things are becoming more apparent and topical in all media. And therefore, there's never been a more important time than now to keep motivated and inspired. So what are you doing about this? What are we all doing to help eradicate the balance in our community? All right, and I say in our community because we often think of gender parity as being for the business world, but it's not just that. It's every sphere of our life. It's in government, how many female ministers we have, how many female PSs. It's in NGOs, it's in sports, it's in fashion world, it's everywhere. It's every aspect of your community. And it is in the family life also, all right? This lie that we are told that men have to be in charge is a lie. We have to work together, man and woman, to achieve the best for our families. When we come together as partners. And I think until we are able to see that in marriages, we will always probably be fighting, and the divorce rate will probably just continue to escalate. Not what people think, because we women want to be in charge. We don't want to be in charge. We want to have our equal say. And having our equal say will not result in more divorces. Actually, it will result in less divorce because we'll be able to work together in a relationship and understand each other better. So for me, every opportunity I get to interact with female leaders of tomorrow, I'm really overjoyed because I truly believe we have the power within us to create a far better world together than the male leaders have done on their own. Mind you, I'm not a proponent of women taking over, all right? As I said, I believe in balance. Without balance, if we have a situation where the women start taking over, we will be no better, all right? Who knows? Might be worse, maybe, all right? But it will be no better. So it's not a situation of women taking over. And it disturbs me when I see at university level, and I mean, I'm here at a university also, that in a class, the women are outdoing the men. That disturbs me very much. It disturbs me when I see the women are the ones who are getting the scholarships. It disturbs me when I see that the women are pushing ahead, but we appear to be leaving some of the men behind. We have our sons. I don't, but many of you have sons. And we need to make sure that the boys understand it's not about the women taking over. And the boys have to rise to the challenge. Do not just sit back and let women move ahead, right? So God has given us all special gifts and talents, and we really need to use it. And I think if we are allowed to impart these in the various disciplines, we will see a phenomenal improvement in our society, the lives of our people, and the success of our businesses, organizations, and government. So I will give you a few insights into my journey and the challenges that I have faced, the lessons I've learned, and some of the successes. People may know about my successes because that's what ends up, in the media and so. But what they don't know about is the mountains I've had to climb, the handicaps and the challenges along the way. So I was not born with a gold spoon in my mouth by any way. I had to fight for everything. And I've taken many a fall during my life and career, but have always tried to get up stronger and more determined than when I fell. And you heard that from the last speaker, probably from both. Yes, sometimes much bruised, but I've learned that the bruises heal, and I get stronger each time. So don't go about moping about the bruises and pains, as really no one wants to hear about that. They're really not interested in that, right? And as a matter of fact, I think the more we mope about that, we are just giving the men the excuse as to why not a woman next time, you see? Not a woman next time. So time will not permit me to do the full journey with you, but I will do some of what I think are the more important highlights. And I know we have the Q&A time, so hopefully we would talk some more during that. So perhaps the first fall I had to face occurred during my very young years. I was a skinny, not like I am now, sickly child who spent more time in the sick bay than in my classroom, who spent more time in the hospital, perhaps, than home. The nurses and the doctors at the Port of Spain General Hospital all knew me, right? My mother probably spent more time with me in my bed than in my father's bed. You know what? But she still managed to have 9 children, right? So, coming up to common entrance time, and given that I've missed so much classes, a lot of people around me just felt that, well, Catherine will not pass common entrance. But even at a very, very young age, I was very determined, and in spite of whatever weaknesses I had in being sick, I had a lot of belief in myself. And my determination to succeed and follow in my first sister's footsteps, I was second, was really, really very strong. And she went to St. Joseph Convent. She was bright, and I was going to follow in her footsteps. There was no way I was going to end up staying at Providence where I was, right? So with faith in myself, I pushed, and guess what? I passed for St. Joseph's Convent. And may I say, I was not on any 20% list. I don't even know if in those days they had 20% lists. All right? And to my surprise, though, because I thought I would just do a bare pass, I got into what they call a special class. In those days, you had special, and then you had ABC, right? So I was in special class. Wow. But by the end of Form 1, I grew out of my sickness. I suffered with asthma very badly, and I grew out of my sickness. And then I found that I was more able to really participate and do well in school. But even up to graduating in Form 6, I had not at that point in time demonstrated any leadership skills, really. I wasn't head prefect. I became prefect, but I think everybody in upper 6 become prefect, so I didn't count that as much. And at that point in time, it was just more academic achievement than really showing leadership. I really worked for 1 year after leaving school, which I wasn't supposed to. I'd already signed up to UWE, already got accepted, and I was going to do a BSc in natural sciences, because I did sciences in Form 6, right? But I worked for 1 year at the bank, and believe me, that was a turning point in my life. Really made a difference. I was like, natural sciences, boring, right? Going to do chemistry and physics and all those crazy things, no way, right? And I got excited about management, and I got excited about business, and I got excited about finance. So when I went to UWE a year later, for my first week, I'd already signed up for natural sciences. I was really torn. And I remember discussing with mommy and daddy was like, because daddy's all pure science, right? And maths and thing was like, no, you got to do this, you got to do this. As a matter of fact, my first sister, daddy so insisted she had to do engineering that she left Trinidad and went to the US because she didn't want to do engineering, right? And daddy was insistent. So come second one, you're going to do science for sure. And I said, no, I was not going to do it. And I did change on the Friday, the last day, and I signed up for business management. And you know what? I've never looked back. I think that was a great choice I made. I think my personality was just ideal for the business and finance and all of that. And I know I would not have been happy if I had gone and done natural sciences. Another experience I want to share right after that is, so my first job at Maritime Life, which is where I worked. I went there and I became assistant accountant. I had majored in accountancy in doing the management. And I was a very soft, sort of sensitive person. I don't know if it be through the sickness or whatever, but I was really a cry baby. I'll be very honest with you. As a matter of fact, at UE, I remember very clearly during week 1, I was labeled grub it, cry. I cried for every single thing. And of course, they did us a lot of dread things, right? Like blowing up balloons. You thought they were balloons? No, they were not balloons, right? But I cried and I cried. And I continued that into maritime. And as soon as they said anything little hard to me, I would cry. And thank goodness, one of my bosses kind of took me aside. He said, Catherine, if you want to advance in this business world, you have to stop that. And he talked about it, and he actually gave me a technique to do, and I'll tell you all privately afterwards if you want. So that you don't, when you feel you're going to cry, you don't cry. And that helped me a lot, and I really toughened up a lot, after that, and I I really stopped the cry. So I would say for me, I was a late developer, a late starter. But you're never really late. It's just God's timing and when God is ready for you. Any of you familiar with this sign that was on Ishi's on Arapita Avenue there, on the wall outside? It says, all children are gifted. It is just that some open their gifts a little later than others. And I need you to remember that for those who have kids and so also, even for your own self. We all don't show greatness from the time we hit age 3 and age 4, as we see on these smart kids on TV and so, right? We all develop at different stages and at different ages, and remember that. So if your child is not showing that development at this point in time, continue to encourage them, continue to push them, but don't give up on them. So for me, in spite of me sprinting ahead, trying to advance in a man's world was no easy task, because by this time I was determined that I want to become CEO. As a matter of fact, at age 26, I wrote out my vision statement, and my vision statement was to become the head of a large financial institution in Trinidad and Tobago. Don't know why I thought at that time I could do that. But you know what? A young, innocent woman, and I was blinded in believing that once I performed well, I will have the same chance in advancing in my career. Any of you young ones feel that in this audience? Well, let me burst your bubble, because no, it's not just about performing well, right? So taking the words all from the Sound of Music, I was determined to climb every mountain and follow every rainbow till I found my dream. And I did find my dream eventually, as you would hear later on. So by the age of 30, I was getting into my own consultancy business with 2 other male partners, one of whom was to become my husband. Sorry that relationship experience is too personal to share. I shared it somewhere else, but I kind of was sorry I shared it afterwards, and then we have video here. So no way, right? All I would say is, women, choose right, okay? Don't wait until after you're married to find out the views of your husband on things that are important to you. And it need not be about just advancing. Anything that is important to you. Kids, your family life, how you're going to treat your mother when she gets older. All of these things. These are things you have to have discussions during your courting days. And not after you get engaged, because once we get engaged, we're too embarrassed to pull back. All right? And we have to go ahead and get married. So before you get engaged, right? See, so I had made mistakes along the way. That was one of them. Was badly bruised. But as I said, I got up even if I was hurting. We worked in that business. We worked very, very long hours, my husband, myself, and our partner. We depleted our financial resources. We were just working. Social life was almost at zero, and we put everything into it. During that time, I was also trying to get pregnant. No success at getting pregnant. Tried everything possible, including IVF and so, but had no luck there. Was it the stress of the business? Was it the stress of the relationship? Was it something biological? But God had it that I would not bear my own child. But I wanted to have a child, so my husband and I decided to adopt, and I adopted a child. I do not consider not having my own child a failure. As a matter of fact, I think it was an opportunity that God gave me to be able to adopt a child and give another child who would not have had a chance, or let me use the word, who may not have had a chance that she has today to be able to also advance. So I thank God every day for that, and I think that, adopting her and having her in my life, especially after the divorce, because the divorce came soon after the adoption, really was gratifying and satisfying to me. So blessings from God. Blessings flow from us, from God all the time to us. Look around and you would see them. And we also have to remember that at times, our disappointments are really His appointments. So I believe in God. I certainly believe that He directs my life. And my beautiful 25-year-old child today is studying at university. And she has been, like I said, the greatest blessing in my life. In spite of all my advancements in my career, I would count that as my number one blessing. And guess what? My husband that I divorced is an excellent father to the child, has stayed in her life, remained a very good father, and he's a very good friend to me today. So we can't work together, we can't live together, but we can be friends together. Well, my career really began to take off after, climbing to the highest level. I probably was climbing there at Maritime, and then I moved on to another organization. And I found that I had gotten to executive level, but I just wasn't getting to the CEO level. And I would keep acting for the CEO all the time, but never got the position, right? So one day I decided I would go to the then CEO and say, well, why am I not getting the position, right? I can act, but what happened now? Am I an actor, right? So he sat me down and we spoke, and he said to me that, Catherine, an important thing for you to become CEO is you have to know people outside here. You have to have circles of influence. And an important part of that is networking. That's how you get to meet people. And I must admit that as women, we are weak in that area. Networking is important. We're afraid to go outside there and mix with the men. And sad to say, the men are the ones, and I'm talking for now, business world, but the men are the ones who are the leaders, the men are the ones who are at that level in the organization. So you gotta start, rubbing shoulders and so with them and not be afraid. I see it over and over. So when we go out, we find other women, we talk to other women, we get in the corner, and we want to talk about the kids and the kids and the kids. Guess what? leave the kids for another time. You go out on a business meeting or so, it's not about the kids, right? It's not about what you're wearing. It's not about how you look or anything about that. Try and have meaningful discussions with your colleagues when you go out. Make new friends. Get to know somebody. Because one of the things that guy had told me is, Catherine, you have to be able to pick up the phone and call the CEO of Neil Massey, the CEO of Republic Bank. Can you do that? And of course, the answer was no. So one of the things I did in trying to improve my networking, I decided I will join a business chamber. An American Chamber of Commerce was just formed, and I joined the American Chamber of Commerce. And I did my best within the American Chamber of Commerce, joining committees, getting involved, getting to know people. And when an opportunity came up to be on the board, I did put up my name, that I was willing, and that's another thing, be willing to put up your name. Don't always wait on others to put your name up. So I did put my name up, and I got appointed to the board, and then I became vice president. And while I was vice president, the then president, David White, who was CEO at, well, in those days, Amoco, and who everyone in this country probably said that he was probably more powerful because Amoco was so powerful, and even the prime minister. All right, and he was called away to another country, so I automatically had to take up the presidency. How am I going to do this? But guess what? I am not going to say no, having reached this far. And I remember the night when we were doing the handover and so, and I spoke about it, and and I said, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to walk in the shoes of David White. And a sole male person in the audience said, and it came out, we heard, Catherine, don't try to walk in his shoes, walk in your own shoes. And that's a message and a lesson I want to leave with you all. So often we're trying to walk in someone else's shoes. Walk in your own shoes. So I think becoming president of the American Chamber certainly got my name outside there. I became known a lot more. I was appointed to boards and stuff like that. And from there, I got invited to come to the central bank and to be the inspector of financial institutions. Mind you, I never got the position as CEO at the company I was working with, but I thank God. And again, it's because God was directing me. Because had I become that CEO, I probably would have been still with that company and would have never risen to where I eventually went to. So it was difficult going to the central bank. I really don't know anything about supervision, banking supervision, etc. But I fought and I fought. I learned. I had great support from my mother. She was really a second mother to Sian, my daughter. And I really got a lot of support and so, and I picked up everything. And I would say I did very well at Central Bank. And then I was invited to join RBTT Bank as the CEO. And guess what? If you remember, that was my vision, to become the CEO of a large financial institution in Trinidad and Tobago. And for me, it was really, really, I felt accomplished because it wasn't just any bank, RBTT Bank. Probably the second between Republic and RBTT, the two top banks in Trinidad and Tobago. So I felt really good about that. And then a lot of things started to happen in my life. Some of it you heard in my CV and so. And probably too much for us to go on to talk about because I know that Kiran is there giving me the time. But, a lot happened. But I want to bring out one thing, though, and it's important for us to just to say that. I think if it had only been about Catherine and Catherine reaching the top and Catherine achieving this and my own gratification, I don't think that I would have gotten to where I eventually got. It was more about Catherine being allowed to use my God-given talents to bring more gender balance and talents and to help build a better TNT and empower more women to do the same. And it is true, as was said before, that we were meant to pull each other down. But I always try to help other women and pull them up. When I went to an American Chamber, first female there, well, no, I wasn't the first female, but at that time, only female. The first thing I did was make sure I brought other females onto the board, invited other females to be on the board. And everywhere I went, I helped women. Everywhere I worked, I helped women, push them, go and study, finish your exams, and I have a lot of friends today of people who I worked with because, I pushed them and helped them and supported them. So that is very important. So was my whole journey an easy feat? By no means so. Did I have many bruises? Yes, lots of bruises. I did learn, however, as I said, that the bruises would heal. Some of them have healed totally. Some of them I've just learned to live with very peacefully. There's a lot more that I would like to share, and I could go on, but time doesn't permit, so I will just leave us with these 4 short self-motivating tips for balance for better. Remember, that's the theme, balance for better. 1, believe in yourself and do not be afraid to make mistakes. It is in making mistakes that we learn, so you will learn from them. And when you make a mistake, ensure that you learn from it. If you go through the pain of making a mistake, make sure you walk away with a reward, which is learning from it. Get out of your comfort zone. Explore new ideas, new places, and new people. 3, think the unthinkable. Have big, hairy goals. Do not limit yourself or let anyone limit you. Sad to say, do not even let your parents limit you. Think equal, build smart, and innovate for change as per the UN Women's theme. Thank you again to UTC for having me, and I wish you all the best as you progress in your careers, etc. And we could talk afterwards some more.
Thank you, Catherine.